Today we have something a little different for you. Over the next several weeks, we will be showcasing our top 5 episodes of all time. Enjoy the episode and be sure to join us next week to hear the rest.
Hi, I'm Billy Gwaltney, and this is the CYA Podcast. This show is for the physician who understands the importance of protecting everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Each week, I'll bring you tips and advice to help you cut through the clutter and misinformation and show you exactly what you need to preserve your income and way of life. If you're ready to achieve the peace of mind that only financial security can bring, let's get started. Welcome to today's episode of the Cover Your Assets podcast. The title of today's program is Why is it important to get specialty disability coverage while in residency or fellowship? That's an excellent question. I get asked that question quite often. And there are essentially, I'll say 4 reasons to get coverage or at least consider it while you're in training. The first one that might seem the most obvious but is often overlooked is it's advisable to get this coverage sooner than later while you're at your healthiest. There can at times be what appears to be somewhat of an assumption that as a physician in training, your exposure financially is significantly less in training compared to being an attending, and almost as if your chances of being disabled are less as a resident or fellow than they are as an attending. And so you can put off coverage until you're kind of walking out the door to training and transitioning to an attending status. And that's certainly an approach. It can be a risky approach. We've seen and heard about scenarios where that didn't work out so well. And so your biggest exposure by far from a financial standpoint is a disability. Typically, when you're in training, you've already spent a significant amount of money, capital, emotional capital, and family capital perhaps, and time investing in your training and your education up until this point. And so there's a lot riding on your ability to get out of bed every day and go do what you're doing, even if it's in a training setting. And your most important and valuable asset is your health, is that ability to do your job and get paid well for that. And so ensuring that as soon as possible is a wise thing to do, again, while you're healthy. The reason is because once you do it, once you secure coverage, again, if it's with one of the top handful of carriers that offer the true specialty coverage, you're underwritten once forever. And so it would never, if your health changes down the road, it will never adversely impact your ability to get the coverage that you need to have as your income increases. And that also assumes that your policy has the future insurability option on it, which, as discussed in a previous episode, is certainly something that you would want to do your best to have on a well-designed disability policy. And so once you go to do those increases as your income goes up, that additional coverage does not require any additional health screening. So you're underwritten once for the life of the policy, and it covers the current purchase amount while you're in training, and then also any future increases as well. So that's reason number 1, get it while you're healthy. Reason number 2 are the discounts. The top companies usually save their largest discounts for residents and fellows. There can be exceptions to every rule, of course, but by and large, the largest discounts are to trainees. And once you secure that discount, again, if it's done properly, then you carry that discount forever. You carry it not only for the initial purchase amount, but also for the future insurability amounts. When you go to increase coverage after graduation and as you're an attending, you get the trainee discounted rate on those future amounts as well. And so the discount can never be removed. It's applicable for the initial amount that you purchase as well as the future increase amounts. That's a valuable asset, usually in anywhere from 10 to 30%. In some cases, depending on the discounts, it can be 40 or even 50%. It just depends. And so securing that while you're in training would save you a lot of money. The third reason is the medical underwriting is typically streamlined for $5,000 a month of coverage and below, which is usually the amount available to trainees. One of the top companies will actually let you have $6,000 per month, but most are at $5,000. And when you go to get medically underwritten, they are asking you about your medical history. You do sign a HIPAA, you do e-sign an application. However, the actual physical part, the labs, the urinalysis, the blood profile, that is waived. And typically when they do that, if you did have to have that insurance physical, they will also weigh you and take your blood pressure. And that step is completely removed from the underwriting process, at least as we record this podcast today. As a result, the medical underwriting is, as I said, is streamlined, and it's a lot quicker for you as a physician, as a trainee. Typically, the medical underwriting can take anywhere, depending on the company, some move a lot slower than others. It's anywhere from 1 day to 90 days. I mean, I've seen it be really quick. I've seen it take just weeks and weeks, depending on getting medical records and clarifying details and those kind of things. But your involvement as a physician, as the insured, can literally be 25 minutes or less, or 30 minutes or less. And it's all over the phone, electronic. And so you're able to kind of do it on the fly without having to worry about the physical part. And again, also, once you're underwritten, you're also being underwritten for the future insurability option amount. So that, assuming you're approved, then when you go to increase coverage in the future, your medical screening will not be a step that's required. And so your health at that time will not factor in. So the third reason is the medical underwriting is streamlined. And then the last reason, and I've seen this happen a lot because I do work with a good number of attendings that just for whatever reason never got around to getting their coverage and training. They usually pay more, one, because they're older, but two, because the discounts are less in a lot of cases. But the other thing, it's important to take care of this coverage before and settle this part of your financial life before training ends and your life really speeds up. And I know as a resident or fellow, you are, working ridiculous hours and seem to have no life perhaps outside of training. But once you become an attending and other phases of your life come into play, then it's easy for time to fly by to such a degree that you simply forget. And again, your biggest risk by far from a financial exposure standpoint is a disability by a significant margin over death or other potentially negative outcomes. And so ensuring this is really important. If you do it right, if you work with a specialist who has the process in place and can point you in the right direction, then you can get it taken care of without a significant time investment. I mean, it takes weeks perhaps for the underwriting, but most of that's behind the scenes and doesn't involve you. And once you secure it, you're good forever. And that is just very important because, again, after you graduate and you move into other parts of your life, then you don't have to worry about slowing down and dealing with this. You've already taken care of it. And again, we've just seen scenarios where people didn't get around to it. We've seen that not work out in people's favor, where their health has changed, or God forbid they've been disabled and didn't have coverage. And that gets ugly really quick, typically from a financial standpoint. But also that they were exposed and they finally get around to it and they acknowledge that they got away with it. So that doesn't always happen. So settling this sooner than later is important. So again, to summarize this, why getting coverage and training is important to consider. Get it while you're healthy. The discounts are by far the largest. The medical underwriting is streamlined, and you want to settle this before other things become larger priorities. Hope you found this helpful. Please feel free to text me anytime to arrange a conversation or to ask questions. My number is 704-270-2376. Again, 704-270-2376. I'd be happy to discuss your situation in more detail. Until next time, this is Billy Gwaltney. Thank you as always for your time. Take care.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.